This is a podcast or something like that. Welcome to the Verbal Journal Podcast, episode 20. Throw a 2 on the board, flip that 1 to a 2 in the tens digits, please. Will you, will you? Okay, thank you. Okay, and then the 9 to a 0, and we are at 20 episodes. Please flip them. Please. I'm sorry. We have a manual thing here, a manual system, and it's the person who's meant to flip the digits is also named Emmanuel. So we have a manual system using my good friend and neighbor Emmanuel, who needs to flip these numbers. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So it is. You don't see the name Emmanuel, like Immanuel Kant. That's literally the only Emmanuel I can think of. Immanuel Kant. You do see Manuel, like Manuel Varga. But I think that really says a lot about our society. Hello and welcome to the newest episode as of currently. If you're listening to this in the future, it could be the 20th oldest. Is that how you would say that? The 20th oldest. Wow, I've already made that noise twice already. The noise. Damn it. It's only a minute and a half in, not including the intro, and I have already made that noise several times. I just realized, the first time I did it, that I seemed to do it for some sort of comedic effect, which is new information. I did not realize that was part of that. Anyways, welcome to the Verbal Journal. Sorry, I'm closing a drawer. You might have heard that. I take out a pen and, see, you just heard it. I take out a pen and some sort of piece of parchment. It could be a Post-it or a piece of paper, a shred of paper, some sort of backside of an envelope. And I make sure to have that nearby so I can say, at this time code, I paused for like 45 seconds and had coffee. So go back in and cut that out. I made the noise again. I don't think I'll go back in and cut out those noises. Anyways, so here for the 20th episode, I don't have I was going to say I don't have a ton to talk about. It sort of depends. I sort of do, sort of don't. But I am excited to do another episode. This has been going well, going Emmanuel. And I'm having a good weekend. It's been a pretty chill, solo one. I haven't had a ton going on socially this weekend, or sort of towards the end of this past week, but that's been fine. I had a relatively busy work week. I think I saw it wasn't busy. It was average, but it was I think I had a few slow weeks where I only saw 10 clients or something. So yeah, I saw 13 clients, I think, this past week, or 14 or something. So, that's not a ton or anything. It's not even 3 a day, but, some days where I saw 4. I think there were 2 days where I saw 4 clients. So, those days are they're work. It's not, it's a challenge doing social work. It's definitely a real challenge. I take it really seriously. Yesterday, which was Saturday, I did more of what I've been wanting to do and doing more lately. I think I might have mentioned it on the previous episode, but I've been reading the new DSM that came out last year, the new Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the manual. Oh, fuck, it's actually called a manual. Oh my God. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. The Diagnostic and Statistical, is it statistical? Yeah, Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So it's where all the diagnoses are and stuff. And they updated all the text and, a lot of other stuff sort of in it last year. So it's called the DSM-5 TR, text revision. It'd be funny if it was DSM-5 FR, for real. DSM-5 for real. It's really good. I mean, they really made it a lot better. It's kind of crazy. They had like all different groups go through it and improve the writing for clarity. They improved it on so many levels. You can tell that they make efforts to be anti-racist and sort of anti-ableist in various ways. They had an anti-racist group look through it for the first time ever and be like, hey, maybe some of this stuff has unquestioned biases that are sort of rooted in white supremacy and institutional racism. So maybe we should actually try to change that. And it's like clearly better. Like you can read it and you can tell at various points. Like for example, it might mention how depression might manifest in a more severe or a different way in a situation where someone's also affected by racism or poverty that's rooted in institutional racism or something like that. I think there was some line related to that, or there's like much more subtle things. But the DSM is definitely improved. So I've been reading more and then just like, improving myself as a clinician, I guess is one thing I am. So yeah, I don't know why that, I guess I don't really have to use that word, but that word is sort of like, used sometimes, but I'm technically, a social worker and I'm licensed. And so but it's funny. Like most of my clients would probably see me as my clients have referred to me as like a counselor or certainly like a therapist. Counselor always feels a little like off to me because that feels more like you're there to like give advice and counsel, which is not how I usually see my role. But somehow, sometimes other people see my role that way. So I have to sort of reckon with that. I can't just be like, that doesn't exist when other people come to the therapy room with that expectation of like more advice based thing. But that's usually not a problem. It just, you navigate it and sort of, I say whatever I'm comfortable saying and then sort of, maybe can say more and then say I'm uncertain or other stuff like that. But anyways, so yeah, I've been sort of trying to learn more. I've been refreshing my memory about, and so why is it worthwhile to read a manual of mental disorders? Why does that help me talk to people and try to help them with their problems? Basically, the manual doesn't have anything about treating mental disorders. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it does help you see patterns. And when you're meeting with someone, first of all, I do basically have to diagnose everyone I meet with because I'm billing their insurance. So I do actually have to diagnose people. And like, that's, so if you have to do it, you have to do it well, and I work for myself. So the only people who could ever see these diagnoses are the client and the insurance company, basically. And so I need to make it such that both of them would understand, So you really have to know what you're dealing with. And, obviously there's an enormous amount of heterogeneity in mental disorders, an enormous amount of, vastly divergent presentations and phenotypes, taking the mental disorders like off the page and into reality. Obviously, there's so many different ways that it can show up. If I want to say that in a less pretentious way, but they do use words like phenotype and stuff, so that's why I'm using it. But so that's been really cool. Yeah, yesterday I was reading about a bunch of different mental disorders and refreshing my memory on some specific things about them, and also just learning new things. Also, the print I bought, it was like $140 or something, this DSM, and I can write it off as an expense, meaning whatever it cost, $140, not to mansplain deductions, but if you don't understand, if you don't do this stuff, writing it off just means, okay, now I can pretend I made $140 less in income. So you don't save the full $140, you save like 30% of it, because that's what you would be paying in taxes on that income, that you no longer have to pay in taxes on that income because of the deduction. So anyways, yeah, it was really worth buying. It's a really good print. It's in color, in sort of subtle ways. It's very classy, nice paper, sort of holographic cover, very cool. Um, Yesterday I was reading about, so I was reading about the schizophrenia spectrum and other disorders section, sort of getting a refresher on that. I don't deal a lot with psychosis or schizophrenia, but I do, it comes up in conversation. I need to understand it. And hey, someone could walk into my office who does have schizophrenia and doesn't know it. And I need to be able to help them either help them or redirect them to someone who can help them more or something. But yeah, it was really good to understand. Like I learned about the 5 different sort of forms of psychosis, delusions, which are messed up beliefs, hallucinations, which are messed up perceptions, disorganized thinking, which is shown through disorganized speech, like very disorganized speech, not like me or something on the podcast, but like ineffective communication to that level. Sort of like just your thought and your speech going in all different directions, being disconnected and stuff like that. Then there's what do they call it? Like psychomotor agitations or something, just like either excessive movements or different like strange movements with your body, or I think catatonia is another side of that if you're just not moving at all. And then the last one being negative symptoms, they call them, which is like the lack of emotional expression or the lack of volitional activity, like motivated activity. And then these are 5 different sort of dimensions of psychosis. And if you have one of them, you don't necessarily have schizophrenia. You need to have 2 of them, I believe, together. Like you need to have like catatonia and like completely disorganized speech, or like completely disorganized speech and delusions. If you just have delusions, then you would have like what's called delusional disorder, and people can have delusional disorder. And what's interesting about this is like everything they're saying is based on actual people. Like they literally base it all on actual studies. And so like when they say delusional disorder, they're talking about like it's a made up category, obviously. But it's a made-up category that applies to very real, specific people. So it's just interesting. But yeah, so like delusional disorder, like they say people can be way more functional than schizophrenia, because they have less impairment. They actually, I think for delusional disorder, they don't actually have significant impairment in like work or other domains. They only have impairment when they're experiencing the delusions and when they're acting on the basis of the delusion. So treatment would be around recognizing the delusions as delusions, I assume, and not acting on the basis of them. Or that would be a significant part of it. I was also reading about just the trauma and stressor sections, refreshing my memory on. Oh, and I think for schizophrenia, it has to be over 6 months of 2 of those dimensions. I should have finished that point. So then schizophreniform is a category. I don't know when exactly it was introduced, but relatively recently in geological time. And that's if you have 1 to 6 months of, I believe, 2 of these different dimensions of psychosis. And then, and I could be getting a few of these details wrong, so don't quote me. I'm just sort of trying to hammer it in from learning yesterday. And then schizophrenia would be more than 6 months of that. And look, I mean, these are not life sentences. Like they can be sometimes chronic, but it's just like we try to label what people are experiencing to better help people understand it, and then ideally not have to experience unnecessary negative thoughts or feelings ever. No, I'm just kidding about ever, but that is sort of the goal with mental health. You want to, have your mind working for you rather than against you. I also, what else did I read about? I spent a lot of time on that section. I think I was refreshing my memory with some OCD stuff. Yeah, I was talking with a client about the difference between OCD and psychosis, because intrusive thoughts can sort of seem like delusional thoughts to a certain extent, but often the difference is people with OCD are much more aware that the thought is irrational. If someone's like, oh, what if I What if I drive my car off the road? And then they're like, why did I just have that thought? Someone with OCD is going to be like, why did I just have that thought? Like, does it mean that I actually want to drive the car off the road? What if it secretly, this is one stereotypical presentation, but like, they can be like, what if it actually does mean that? And now suddenly they're panicking, they're distracted. It can lead to so many consequences, intrusive thoughts of all different kinds. And people don't even have to necessarily have intrusive thoughts to have OCD. But this is just a typical presentation. It doesn't have to be thoughts per se. It could sort of just be a just right sensation where you want things to feel a certain way. But someone with psychosis would, or delusions would be like I know for sure, more likely to be like I will definitely drive the car off the road, like in 1 week, like. I don't know that maybe that's a ridiculous, that sort of feels like a weird example, but like, I don't like the drive the car off the road sort of specifics, but, someone with a delusion has a fixed belief, not a struggle with uncertainty about, a potential belief or reality. So I don't know. I mean, to be way too simplistic, it's more of a struggle with overly certain, or heightened excessive certainty rather than excessive struggle with uncertainty. OCD, it's not excessive uncertainty, it's struggle with uncertainty, excessive struggle with typical or minimal uncertainty. Any degree of uncertainty can feel really uncomfortable to people with obsessive compulsive sort of presentations of their anxiety. And I do have a few clients with OCD. I don't have clients with who struggle with psychosis, but I believe I have. I believe I have a few times, and so I need to make sure I'm sharp with it and can at least identify when something is a delusion, when it's a hallucination. I mean, that's a hard thing to do when someone's talking about things. So, but you at least have to be keen. Wow, I've talked for 15 minutes or something about reading the DSM. So that was not expected. I've also been reading. Ooh, I made that little noise again. I've also been reading. So yeah, it's been a chill weekend. I was reading that yesterday. On Friday, actually, like around sunset, I was lying. I have this like couch, sort of second bed in my living room thing, my old bed. It's a crappy little bed, so I turned it into like a couch with pillows on it, and it's right by these windows, so the sun comes in. So I was just like lying there. As like evening came on Friday, and like it was like just getting dark. I was reading this book, The Jakarta Method. I think I mentioned it on the previous episode. It's about like all these things that the U.S. government has done to interfere in other countries for the last 50 years. Or like specifically from like 1950 to 1970-ish for the most part, and specifically in Indonesia for the most part, but also talking about Guatemala, Iran, Brazil, and in like this is all in like 1953. So Indonesia first was 1958. I think Iran's like 1963. Iraq, I forget when Iraq was. But yeah, Brazil and all these different interventions that the U.S. has done to support U.S.-friendly, often dictators. And in Indonesia, I mean, this is kind of dark. Trigger warning, just skip forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear something really dark. But yeah, the U.S. doesn't mind supporting armies and dictators killing people, just literally. And we do it, and we've supported it, and that's what the country I was born into. That's what we're known for, and we just don't know about it. I mean, ask any U.S. citizen what we know about Indonesia. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of information, okay? You're not going to get a lot of response. You're going to get like, excuse me, can you please, I'm trying to get into this restaurant. We're not going to be like, oh yeah, Indonesia, won their independence from the Dutch in the 40s, and then the president, I believe Sukarno, was a noted, internationally renowned anti-imperialist leader who organized the Bandung Conference with other quote unquote third world countries, which did not have a negative connotation at the time, but rather was the third world in comparison to the US and Soviet imperial powers. And Sukarno was not a communist, but sort of tolerated and in some ways nurtured, you could say, the PKI in Indonesia. And also, just like Indonesians didn't mind the Communist Party. And so it sort of had increasing people voting for it. And that led to, among other things, led to the U.S. Making sure to exert influence to support the Indonesian army in many ways, trying to nurture anti-communism in the army. So when Indonesia, for example, wrote into law that all their oil money would either be nationalized or certain limitations. I didn't look into exactly what they were with how foreign companies could profit from Indonesian resources. The U.S., that was something that the U.S. was against. So the U.S. did things like train Indonesian military army people. I don't know if it's officers, probably at I believe it's Fort Leavenworth or some military base, and also. I could just go on, but I've just been absorbing this, and so I'm just spitting it back out because I didn't know anything about Indonesia, and I'm just learning about how it, like, they're huge. Like, they were like 100, or they are. I don't know what they are now, but at the in the 50s and 60s, they were like 100 million people, and they were. I don't know. They were this very significant country that the U.S. was worried about becoming communist. And as we were sort of like dallying in a bunch of other countries, including Vietnam, the U.S. made sure to exert like huge influence in Indonesia. Did all kinds of plotting, how to all these different plans the CIA came up with about killing the president, tried to, or humiliating him in different ways. And then ultimately, when the time came, supporting a coup against him that the army did, on false pretenses. Because there are probably good reasons to do a coup. Don't get me wrong. That's my whole thing with the January 6th thing. It's like, at the time when the January 6th thing happened in the U.S., the people raided the Capitol or whatever. I remember seeing some sort of reactionary people like, left-wing people would support this if the January 6th crowds were left-wing. And it's like, yeah, obviously. If there was like a good reason to do something, hey, you would support this thing if there was a good reason to do it. If the reason was something other than installing the guy who had just been president back as president again, like, I don't know. I mean, it obviously wasn't a rigged election. I just don't know what else to say. Like, it just literally wasn't. So since I mentioned this political stuff, I should probably talk about the fact that Donald Trump, the former president, was actually indicted. I will genuinely admit I was wrong. I didn't necessarily think he was actually going to get indicted. Wow, I clicked news and it just loaded a CNN article immediately. It's like, no, I want to see a list of articles. Pluralities of Americans support second Trump indictment, say charges are politically motivated. What? Are those separate things or the same thing? A plurality of Americans think that former President Donald Trump should have been indicted by a federal grand jury on charges related to his handling of classified documents, yet a near equal number say the charges are politically motivated. Well, yeah, because probably both are true. That's literally actually so funny because that's exactly what my position is. Not even that the charges are politically motivated. That's obvious. Everything's going to be politically motivated. That, first of all, that does not mean that they're not valid charges. But I have more of a problem with, I don't care that they're politically motivated. I just hate that this takes up so much people's attention when, like, the US, for instance, is still doing all the same evil shit I was just getting at with the Indonesia stuff. Like our country's just doing so much fucked up shit. So I do hate that something like this creates such a clown show that we can all focus on. But of course. And I look, so I haven't I don't know any of the details of the case. I've actually completely not read about it. I'm in full support of him being indicted for mishandling classified documents. I also have my feelings about classified documents, but I don't think I agree with Trump in even 0.001% of this case, or most cases. So, yeah, I don't think you should be allowed to just steal classified documents from your job and, keep them at home. So I think it's good for him to experience consequences for that. I do think it's funny that a former president can be indicted. I think a lot of former presidents should be indicted for other things, like maybe at The Hague for war crimes, including Trump. But this is a good start. This is showing that the deep state is willing to crack down on. No, overall, so I don't know anything about what happened. He willfully retained documents containing the nation's most sensitive intelligence after he left office, exhibited some of them on at least 2 occasions, and then tried to obstruct the investigation into their whereabouts. Okay. Was he trying to sell them, or was he trying to okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought it'd be fun to look. He's also obviously being sued for many, many different things because he's been a horrible person for his whole life and done terrible things. Okay, let's go to Reuters. They're always even-handed about everything. I'm joking, obviously. Every single source is so biased. It's ridiculous. Okay. Okay, in all, Trump faces 37 criminal counts. 31 of which relate to secret or top secret classified documents. Also, obstructing justice, conspiracy, concealment, and false statements. I don't know. I was more into the Mueller investigation. This one doesn't sort of have the same interesting sort of... I liked season 1 a little bit better. Okay. How does wait, is it the same act? He's being charged with the Espionage Act? Or he's being charged under the Espionage Act, which criminalizes a broad array of conduct related to the mishandling of sensitive government records. And it's the same act that Chelsea Manning was prosecuted under. So Trump's just trying to be cool, I guess. It's very funny that it's something like that when, the guy could be caught for so many different things. But I guess this is one he can't wriggle his way out of, because if there's one organization you don't fuck with, it's the U.S. federal government. Yeah, like I say in one of my videos, I guess the the U.S. government was the biggest wolf all along. So I didn't plan on talking about all this stuff for so long. I did actually have some stuff I wanted to talk about. So now that we're 30 minutes in, I think I'll talk about the stuff I wanted to talk about. First, I'm going to check the mailbag. So you can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. That's gmail.com, not gmail.gov. And sometimes people write in, and I like to read their messages and respond. No one wrote in today, which is totally fine. Feel free to write in next time if you would like, and I will very likely see it and respond with my mouth. Okay. A few different things I was thinking of. So, I have this video now. This new Breaking Bad video is at 2.7 million views, almost 2.8, I think, million views, which is 2,800,000 billion views. And so that's really good. And I think the average watch time is still really long. So that's really good too, and I'm very happy and excited about that. I was just like, yeah, it's really wild to look at like other videos that I love and stuff that have like 1 million views now and be like, oh, that's not even that many. Like I don't even try to think that, but like my whole frame of reference has changed. Like when I see 1.8 million views, I'm like, oh yeah, that's doable. Instead of like, wow, that's like an unconscionable number. It's like, oh yeah, no, I could see 1.8. So the average watch time, is still like over an hour. Wow. Yeah, So the reason I brought this up, I was thinking like, wouldn't it have been interesting if one of my other videos was the one to get like 1 million views first before something like this? Like, what if like one of my political videos, like my video about like Steven Crowder or like Lauren Southern or something, like, I mean, those videos don't hit 1 million on YouTube these days. Like you don't make a like explicitly left wing, title and thumbnail and get 1 million views, because you don't get 10 to 20 million impressions. I'm just sort of riffing, but this is sort of how I feel. I don't know. And I like lately I've seen some channels that, sorry, that was a rock I was playing with. Lately I've seen some channels that I like, that are good, come out with a new video that just completely flops too, just because it's like not in their right niche or something. And like, I actually don't watch I really don't even watch a ton of YouTube videos, just because I like I do compared to a normal person, but not compared to people who watch a lot of YouTube. So sometimes I haven't even checked out these videos, but I'm sure they're good. You know what I mean? That it's just like stuff doesn't hit their niche right. But anyways, I was thinking it'd have been really wild. Like I'd have a very different account. It's very funny, like being I don't know, like getting so many viewers and subscribers explicitly through Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. It's really just such an interesting thing. So I guess I didn't really know what else to say about that. If one of those other videos blew up, it would just be, I don't know, it would be different, and it would feel a little bit, I guess, like I'd feel, instead of feeling pressure to like watch The Sopranos and watch all these shows and all that, I'd feel pressure to comment on everything going on politically whenever it was, or I don't know. I guess I wouldn't. I don't know what I would, but like I'd feel more pressure to make more videos that were political. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't. I could do whatever the fuck I want. I guess I just thought it would be funny and interesting to mention that. Okay, one thing I might have more to say about is I've mentioned a little on stream, like like the fact that I didn't watch Breaking Bad and like where that comes from. The fact that I haven't seen all these other dramas, like I mentioned in that video where I first announced I haven't seen Breaking Bad, like I've mentioned on the podcast, there are a bunch of movies I haven't seen and stuff. I'm not like totally sheltered about stuff. I definitely feel like I have a good sense of stuff in the culture, but I don't actually see all that much movies. And it's interesting, like, and I guess TV shows too. I don't know. Maybe I am kind of like sheltered or alienated or isolated from various things in the culture in certain ways. But I don't really feel that way. I just mostly feel like I have a restricted diet for media or something, because I'll like, I'll watch the same stupid things, or nowadays I'll like watch sports in the background while listening to like a podcast, like a comedy podcast or something. Or just like some, comedy video or something. I like light things because I spend a lot of time just like, reading or writing, and which takes a lot of focus or whatever. But like, I don't know what I'm trying to, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, okay, so how did I get to this place where I embrace media in this way? I think it's just like sort of interesting if you, I don't know, like hearing me talk about myself. So when I definitely used to see movies a lot. And when I was like 13, 14, 15, I definitely saw movies a lot, almost every week. On the weekend, I would go like one night and see a movie in the theater with my friends. I definitely liked movies a lot. I would watch a bunch of different shows and stuff like that. And I think at some point in high school, I think when I got into my own art, like drawing, making music, and other stuff, it definitely took the motivation off there. I think, so the first thing to go was like I stopped sort of listening to like pop music around that age. I got into like my own, weirder music or whatever stuff I like. And then I think soon enough I stopped going to like major movies, and I only saw movies that I thought were like really like interesting and creative and good. And like at a certain point that just kind of stuck. I stopped like being friends with those friends I would see movies with. I think we like sort of fell off. I was friends with other friends who like didn't see movies as much. Except I do remember watching Human Centipede. I had a rich friend who had a fucking basement home theater, and we watched Human Centipede, the most fucked up movie ever, in his basement home theater. It was I think we were high on drugs. I hope we were high on drugs to have done something like that. But I do like actual good movies. Like I remember part of what got me into reading when I was like around the same 14, 15 age or 16 maybe. Yeah, 16 maybe actually. Is I saw No Country for Old Men, and then I also saw Requiem for a Dream, and then I found out that those were books too, and I read those books, and that got me into reading more, which was cool. I remember reading a bunch of books after that. I think I got into like A Clockwork Orange and like Brave New World and stuff like that. But yeah, so I definitely, I do love movies, but I started seeing them a lot less. In college, I definitely saw them a lot less. I don't think I fucking ever went to movies when I was in college. Maybe once in a while or in the summers. I actually did work in a movie theater. I believe it was my freshman year summer, like the summer after my freshman year of college. I'm almost positive. It was the summer before and after my freshman year of college. I believe I worked at a movie theater, and even by that point, I was already like not a movie person. To the point where like Inception came out for one of those summers, and I didn't see it, even though I could have seen it for free at the movie theater I worked at. And like, I still haven't seen Inception. I honestly, it's actually kind of sad, because I honestly think it does relate to being a little bit like more socially isolated, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I have lived alone for the last like 4 or 5 years. I lived alone in college for, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I had a single. I actually lived on campus. I had a dorm, which was kind of non-isolating in the sense that I was around people, but I didn't have like a close friend I wanted to live with at the time, even though I had like a friend group of people. It just didn't work out where I had someone I wanted to live with exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like I've never felt like like too socially isolated, but I do have to admit that there's an element of like part of me doing a lot of the creative stuff I do and sort of living in the way I do and exploring myself and the world in the way I do is being somewhat more socially isolated sometimes, to a degree that I think I've found a healthy balance for and stuff like that. But I do think that relates to watching movies less, because it's a little bit harder alone to be like, I'm going to sit down and watch this movie, for me personally. So if I, eventually I'll probably, watch more movies. It's been a goal this year, and I've done a little bit of it, but I do have a list that I want to get into more. But yeah, my overall relationship to movies is is just interesting to me, because at some point I just stopped seeing a lot of major movies. If you want a reason to write into the podcast, you can write in and you can ask me if I've seen various movies, and I'll tell you. Okay, now we have the segments of the podcast. Okay, we have segments of the podcast. Get ready for segments. First up, I think I may have forgotten this one last week, or I don't remember if I forgot it. The weekly report of my screen time. 25 minutes daily average screen time on my phone. This is just my phone, not my computer, the one I use all the time. 25 minutes daily average is 19 minutes less. It's about half of my average screen time the week prior. And mostly messaging app and YouTube, and a little of my business app for my phone number for my business. Because I have clients who text me sometimes. This has just started in the last 6 months or a year. I mean, I have a business number that does have text enabled. It also has fax enabled. I can fucking send a fax from my smartphone. Just take a fucking picture and send a fax. It's so fucking dope. From a number that's different from mine, like my business number. It's so cool. But I can also text, and so a few clients will text me, and it's super professional. People really do keep boundaries with me very well. I think I do a good job of asserting them. So people are just, they'll text about, hey, I'm late for this appointment, or are we scheduled for today or something like that. And so it's actually been, I think, convenient for people. But that's why my screen time includes that app a little bit for the first time. So interesting. Wow, a reason to actually talk about screen time. I knew that segment would have a reason. Okay, a few more things. Last week, unfortunately, I was 20 points down in a fantasy league matchup. Each matchup is 1 week long. You accrue points for how your players play. You accrue points for how the players on your roster play in that week, and then you have a matchup, and whoever gets more points wins the matchup. Hold on, I'm trying to get into my fucking fantasy page, and it's I signed in with, I think, the wrong email. But yeah, I was 20 points ahead, and it was actually kind of crazy how I lost. I really have to hand it to my friend. He came back in a really dope way. I was 20 points ahead, and over the course of it's Sunday, it's the last day of the matchup. He caught up, and then was just he was just 2 or 3 points ahead, maybe even 1 point ahead, which is just a hit. I just need one player to get a hit. I need a pitcher to get a strikeout. I need one thing, And I had a whole game with several players in the game. I had a whole Dodgers game with Max Muncy and James Outman, and I had a few other players in the game, and they got negative points. They you can sort of usually count on a few points average. Most players average a few points a game. And I got negative points. And so it was the whole 3-hour game goes by, and I had 5 players who could have accrued points, and overall they got negative points. And so my friend beat me out for that matchup. I was I got to hand it to you. So today, so I'm 5-4 in terms of matchups. Not great. Today, I am 4 points down as the last day of the matchup gets started. So very close, very, very close. And I added a ton of pitchers. So pitchers can accrue a lot of points. They can also get negative points if they have a really bad day. My opponent has 3 pitchers. Fuck, he accrued another pitcher. God damn it, he added another pitcher. Should I add a 5th fucking pitcher? That would be crazy. I can't add a 5th pitcher. That feels like you're really rolling the dice. And it's also kind of cheating. There's a loophole. You're supposed to have a limited number of pitchers, 12 a matchup. But on the last day, you can apparently add more, and it doesn't stop. So I don't know. I think I'm fine. So I just need my players to have a good day. I need to have a good day. I'm not going to add another pitcher. I'm just going to hope I have a good day. Okay. And for the last regular segment, we have the chess minute, I believe it's called, the chess moment. And the chess moment, there's a lot of chess news. Okay, so I talked about the Norway chess tournament, absolutely top level, prestigious. Magnus, Fabiano, Hikaru, all the top guys in it. Commentated by David Howell, Javanka, I forget her last name, and GM Judith Polgar. I'm sorry, I didn't say GM for the other two. They're GMs. But Judith, actually, I think Javanka's an IM. But Judith Polgar is one of the best players of all time. She's beaten Gary Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen. She's amazing, and her commentary was next fucking level. It was actually wild. She understood so many dimensions of the game, like even better than David Howell, and it's like, oh, whoa. It was actually kind of wild to listen to. But anyways, Fabiano was having a great tournament, and he was up in the last day. He just needed to not lose to Hikaru, who was in second place, and Hikaru played a very legendary opening called the fried liver opening, which is like this classic opening people at low levels like me play. I never play the fried liver opening because I don't play the king's pawn. I play c4, not e4. Wait, it's king's pawn, right? Fried liver, I think. But anyways, it's a common gambit, a common trick, but at the high levels it can be played, and even when black responds knowing all the right moves, as they obviously do, because it's an easy trick to avoid once you learn the pattern, you still get into a very dynamic position where I think white is up a pawn. I don't know, but something happened where Fabiano, I believe, was down a pawn, but it was fine. And then he just pushed this pawn, f5, he pushed his pawn third from the left. He was black. He pushed his pawn third from the left, 2 squares up, which you can do on your first pawn move, each time you move a pawn. So he moved that f pawn 2 squares, and what it did was just totally ignored a threat of him losing another pawn. I have no idea what he was thinking. I haven't heard an interview if he's given it yet. I could not see a point. I went back and listened to the commentary. I didn't hear them make any point. I could not see a point why he pushed that pawn. And it made the game impossible for him to get anything back. And Hikaru just dominated him for the rest of the game, and it was tough to watch. Hikaru's a fine player, but he's not my favorite, and I did want to see Fabiano win this tournament. It seemed like he had a really great tournament and he deserved it, but he didn't deserve it at the end of the day. So tough last day of the tournament, but yeah, I have no idea why he pushed that. I will say, after listening to him in a few interviews and watching him play, I did notice he likes pushing that f pawn 2 squares. I think I actually did notice he likes pushing f5 before what was it, Friday or whatever. I'm not even joking. Like, I actually had that thought because he mentioned it at one point in an interview, like just pushing f5 in some position. I'm like, I feel like I've heard him say that before. It might have been f4. I forget if he was white or black, but pushing that f pawn 2 squares. So I think he has some weakness for that, and he needs to understand that. Okay. 2 more things to talk about before we're going to close this out. This is first time I've recorded the podcast in one take in a while. Usually I have to go pee or something like that, or take a sip of coffee for too long. Let's take a quick sip of coffee. Okay, so new segment for the podcast. I've shared some comments before. I share some positive comments, some negative comments. Gonna share a negative comment, and the segment, or this is now a segment, it's called the misunderstanding comment of the week. So which comment feels the most misunderstood? Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. That was probably really loud, and I don't even know what that was. It didn't show up in Streamlabs. I didn't see what that was. I'll see it on replay, and maybe I'll note it in the description of this podcast. But I don't know what that was. Wait, what's the time code? 50. Okay. What was the alert at 50:40 or some shit? Okay. I don't know what that alert was. Apologies for that. Let me. Okay. And so this misunderstanding comment of the week, which comment can misunderstand me the best or the most? Which can misunderstand me the most? Someone commented on the new video. I really disagree with that whole masculinity point. There's nothing wrong with using your masculinity to take pride in yourself or be tough in the face of adversity. That's a soft mindset if you don't think that. So when I read this comment, I was just like, wow. They say, I really disagree with the whole masculinity point. And then they say, there's nothing wrong with using your masculinity to take pride in yourself or to be tough in the face of adversity. I literally think I say, like, not word for word, but I make that exact point in the video. Like I talk about Flynn doing it. I talk about Hank doing it, using masculinity in positive ways. And I say it's good for them to use masculinity. I guess I confuse people because I say, like, you kind of shouldn't need the concept of masculinity to, like, be honest or, like, treat others with respect or own up to what you did. You know what I mean? I do make that point, like, once or twice. Like, you shouldn't, I kind of imply, like, you shouldn't need masculinity to, like, take responsibility or stuff like that. But I definitely also make the point that it's a good use of the concept of masculinity. As, like, since this is a socially constructed concept, as concepts are, we should, as much as we care about it as a positive thing if we're going to drive towards it. And as much as we fear it and are averse to it, that should only be the negative qualities associated with it. So, at the end of the day, it's like, I thought I said very clearly that it is good that Flynn used masculinity in the way he did with his dad, and that Hank used masculinity in the way he did with Walter, in various points. So it's just so interesting that someone can say, I disagree with your point, and then say a point that is my point. Okay. And then actually one more thing before we do the last thing before I go, and the last thing's going to be really funny. So if you listen until the end, you're going to have a funny thing. Okay, so but first, I cannot just share negative comments. I have to make sure to share positive ones because I get so many nice, very kind, positive comments as well. And okay, one more negative. I need to respond to this. This shit pisses me off, and I almost fucking responded. Someone said, and I've gotten like 3 of these on the new video. Jesus fucking Christ, did you never think that other folks might not have watched it either? You just barrel right into a concise list of major spoilers 3 minutes in without warning. Come on. Okay, now listen to me very, very closely. Maybe anyone who commented this or had this experience on my video, look, I understand you had an unpleasant experience, but listen to me very closely when I say, maybe next time you click on a 3-hour video about a show you have not watched, you should look in the description of the video to see if it has a spoiler warning. I don't know, do these people need me to put it in the actual video? Are you kidding me? You need it to be in the actual video? You need me to put spoiler warning on the fucking screen? That is so non-aesthetic, and like, it's a 3-hour video about a show. I put it in the description. Give me a fucking break. I take no responsibility. To quote Donald Trump, I take no responsibility at all. Okay, this is a very nice comment I wanted to share. It's, it overstates the case, and I'm not trying to say, but anyways, they said, you are one of the few good YouTubers. Thank you for being this good of a YouTuber and a person. God bless you. And then they put in parentheses, am 17. Which I thought was really funny because, like, that's cool. Like, I people don't usually say their age in their comment. No, I think they're saying that because they're like, I'm a young person, I'm a kid, and like I appreciate what you do, and I think that's really dope. That's really really dope. And they commented that on my part 4 nature versus nurture Better Call Saul video. So lots of great comments. Now, last thing to close it out. This is so funny, y'all. So yesterday I was going through the DSM. Oh yeah, I forgot to say I was also reading a lot about depression. I was trying to make sure I understood all the ins and outs and the parameters of the differences in the diagnoses, what exactly constitutes major depressive disorder versus persistent depressive disorder, other things like that. And I was also going through some of my clinical notes in the past. I was going through, I keep, you have to keep notes, obviously. And as a therapist, you don't go through and review all your old notes very often. But, I thought, I kind of want to look at my old notes and see how I progressed in my note taking, and just look at one client who had a specific diagnosis, see how I changed their diagnosis over the course of several years, and see how I felt like that lined up with, how they were doing. And so just kind of review my work, basically check my work. And you will not fucking believe this. I did not believe this. Okay. Sometimes in my clinical notes, this is a paragraph for each appointment. It's a paragraph. I write it up. It's in the third person. Client discussed with clinician this, clinician, client discussed that. Clinician suggested this, client, and clinician set plan for clinician to approach, or for client to approach this problem in this way, and to practice these skills in response to this, or like stuff like that. A little bit more elegant than that, but like whatever. Sometimes in the clinical notes, I will use quotes. I don't do it as much, but nowadays, but I sort of learned to do it back in the day, 5 to 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I learned, hey, sometimes put things in quotes. It's a person-centered approach to therapy. It's a way to actually make sure that either the client's voice gets heard, or like just things, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be quoting the client. It could be quoting a concept discussed in the appointment, or just like, don't be afraid to use quotes. So whatever, that's sort of one thing I learned. So in these notes from like, I think I was going through the notes from like, this is a client I've met with for like 4 years. So, on and off. So like, because some people want that with therapy, and they have like good insurance. So they're not like, it's not like killing their wallet or anything. They're paying like $15 an appointment or something. And like, they feel like I'm helping them. So yeah, this person I've been meeting with for a long time. And, I was going through the notes from like 2020, I think, or something. And I'm reading a clinical note, and I'm talking about the client's self-care, like improvements and stuff. And, and I fucking, in the clinical note, I say that the client is like practicing, like sort of like improving self-talk and improving, like building self-awareness of different habits and patterns and stuff through, like talking, like recording themselves, talking to themselves. And I fucking put in quotes, verbal journaling. When I read this yesterday in my clinical notes from like 2020, I'm like, are you fucking kidding? So I literally think my client came up with, and I thought I came up with that. I came up with it on a live stream like 2 live streams ago on YouTube, and I had no memory of like, so it's possible I came up with it in the appointment with my client and put it in quotes. because it wasn't clear from how I phrased it whether like my client came up with it or I did, but it's also very possible that my client came up with it. So I don't know what to do about that. I'm just gonna go with it because I still love the name. I still felt like I came up with it when I did. But I very much, this was literally in my notes. So yeah. Oh my god. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Verbal journal is in my clinical notes. So that is where we're going to end it today. A beautiful podcast, one take to rule them all. I hope you had a great time listening. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. That's another movie I haven't seen. It's actually one of the only movies I ever walked out of. I forget which Lord of the Rings. I think it was the first one. I was like probably a kid. I was like 13 or something. It's one of the only movies I've ever walked out of. Or I might have just shut it off. Did I see that in theaters? I think I did. I was like, I don't care about what's going on. I think maybe you had to read the books to really care about it. I'm sure it's good. Anyways, sorry to offend anyone right at the end there. I'm sure Lord of the Rings is good if you like it. I just personally have not experienced it. Okay. Have a great time, and thanks for listening, I guess. I don't know why I need to thank you for listening. Presumably you've enjoyed it. You should be thanking me, actually. So you're welcome. You're welcome for talking. And you hang up first. No. Okay, I'll hang up. This is a podcast or something.